Hello everybody, it's the War Hipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we are painting Aestred Thurga Reliquant at Arms with Agathae Dolan in tow. These are very, very highly detailed miniatures and they are awesome and I really like them. Again, the Sisters range absolutely knocking it out of the park. Is there anything they can't do? So, without further ado, we're going to get into painting them. And, well, we're mostly going to focus on Aestred Thurga to begin with, on the sister herself. Then we're going to do Agathae Dolan, and then we'll do that banner. That's the kind of stages of the video. So, I'm going to put Agathae Dolan to one side. And, well, the place we're going to start first is on Agathae Dolan's armour. Now, the colour we're going to be using first is Basilicanum Grey. And we're going to be using this all over all of her armour, like so. Just ignoring the helmet, or at least the visor of the helmet. And this Basilicanum Grey is going to act as our pre-shade for the armour. Before we get the black on there. Like that. Now don't worry, the outside of the cloak is also going to be black, but it's going to be a different colour black because we want some distinction between the two. It's only a mild difference, but we're not doing this Basilicanum Grey over that just yet. Well, at all. Like I said, we are just focusing on the armour panels for now, like that. And so with that Basilicanum Grey applied, as you can see, all over. What we're going to do now, just before we do the black, is we're going to do the outside of all of the cloaks. Now, these are also black, as mentioned before, but they are a different shade of black. As I said, we're going to go for a little bit of variation here. And the colour we're going to be using is Wyldwood. Again, this is our pre-shade. And what we want to do is just want to start painting this Wyldwood all over the outside of the robes. This is going to give them that kind of leathery quality that we're after. And create a real clear distinction between the armour and the leather. And so with that now done, what we want to do is we want to put some black Templar all over the top. Now I have used Wyldwood over the top of the leather details, which is also going to include like the belts and the holster there, for example. And this is just to speed things up a little bit for ourselves later on. So what we're going to do is just going to pick a place to start, and we're going to start painting this black Templar all over the top of our black leather and our armour. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Flesh Tearers Red and we'll use this to paint the inside of her robes. Well, of her leather coat. Just like this. So we're going to do it on the sleeves. Like that. And we've got the underside around here as well. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to colour in all of the silver details. Now, the colour we're going to be using for this is Iron Hand Steel. What we want to do is just load up our brush, just pick a place to start. I'm going to start here on the sword. I'm just going to start painting it all over. Now, there's a number of silver details on her. So you've got things like the little belts, various fleur-de-lis all over the place. The sword, of course. Like that. Other places, I'm going to include areas like the visor on her mask, or a helmet, I should say. Any of the other areas you want to be silver. Again, we're just focusing on her for now. We'll get to that banner very shortly, as I'm sure you can tell. So with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some Skeleton Horde. I'm going to use this on the parchment here. Like that. And we're also going to use it on the candle, on the backpack, just there. Just on the part that would be wax. If it were a real candle. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is take some Apothecary White and we'll use this to paint in the rosary beads just here. And so with that Apothecary White applied, what we're then going to do is take some thinned down Retributor Armour and we'll use it to paint in all of our gold details. Now, this is going to include areas like the pommel and the guard of the sword, the fleur-de-lis on her gorget just here, the eye down here, like so. We've got the inquisitorial eye here as well, like that. We've got the fleur-de-lis on the helmet. We've got the base of the candle just here. As well. Just want to go around filling out these details and then we'll be back. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to colour in her face, and the colour we're going to be using for this is Guilliman Flesh. Just like that. So with that done, it's now time to add some shades to Aestred Thurga herself. And the first one we're going to do is Gryph-Charger Grey. We're going to be doing this on the sword. Just on the blade. Just like that. And next up, I'm going to use some Basilicanum Grey to shade all of our remaining silver details. So areas like that. And just in there as well. Now I've picked out all of the coat buttons with the Iron Hands steel as well. We don't need to shade those because they're fine the way they are. With that Basilicanum Grey applied, we're then going to take some Fyreslayer Flesh. I'm going to use this to shade all of the gold. So with that done, Aestred Thurga, all of her base coats are now on and shaded, and she is at the battle ready standard. However, we are going to now take her further, and then we're going to move on to the next couple of sections after that. So, starting with Aestred Thurga's highlights, what we're going to do is we're going to use some Eshin Grey. Now, we've got some thin down here on our palette, and what we're going to do is we're going to use this on the kind of the leather cloaks and things like that. What we want to do is we basically want to relayer the cloak by just painting this Eshin Grey all over the top of the raised areas. Just avoiding the darkest recesses. So that's like that one there on the top. We don't need to do this bottom section here. We just want to do these larger ones. So like that one, like that. Similarly down here, what we want to do, we want to layer the Eshin Grey all over the top with these larger folds, but again, just leaving the darker areas, well, the areas that are deeper in the fabric, as the current tone of black that they are. Like this. So you just want to go around like this, and then we'll come back. So with that done, all the way around, there we go. Just in the most prominent features of those cloaks. What we're now going to do is we're going to take some Stormvermin Fur. We're now going to use this as a highlight all over the cloaks. So we just want to pick out all of the edges. With that done, you should have some cloaks that look somewhat like this. They're looking pretty cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take some thinned down Dawnstone, and we're going to use this to highlight the armour. So this is the other colour of black that we've got on here. And with that done, we're now going to finish off all the black by adding a little spot highlight of Administratum Grey, just on the sharpest features. So, for example, just here on the gorget, we want to add a little dot on either side of those corners, like that. Pick out the rivets as well. The top edges of that circle, whereas on the cloak, what I want to do, I want to pick out areas like this tiny little section just here, around the knee, got that corner, got this bit just here, and there. Like this. You just want to go around picking out all the areas that you want. To make it just shine a little bit brighter. And then we'll come back. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is move on. And we're going to start highlighting all of the brown leather. Now the colour we're going to be using for this is Skrag Brown, because we want this to be nice and warm. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take a small amount of this Skrag Brown on our brush and start picking out the edges. Just like this. And so with that Skrag Brown applied to all of our leather details, what we're now going to do is going to take some Deathclaw Brown, and we're going to use this as a little spot highlight on the leather. So for example, here on the scabbard, what we're going to do is just add a little bit of Deathclaw Brown right here at this sharp point. Like that. You can always lengthen it out just a little bit. Similarly on like the belts and things, we've got the little bit just there, a little bit just here, and so on and so forth. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Gore-Grunta Fur. I'm going to use this to tie all of our leather details together. So, well, our highlights and stuff. So what we want to do, just want to paint this around all the details that we've already painted. Just using little amounts at a time. To just really add that warmth into all the belts and things. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to work on the sword. And well, they've got this really kind of shimmering sharp effect on the box art, so that's what we're going to try and recreate for you now. Now the colour we're going to be using is Gryph-Charger Grey once again. And what we want to do is basically want to paint in those kind of reflective areas over the top of where we've already done Gryph-Charger Grey over the iron hand steel. So what we want to do is we want to add this Gryph-Charger Grey coming down from the tip of the sword here down to around about there, like that. And then similarly on the other side, where that stopped, we're going to add it again like that. And we're also going to add it coming up the sides of that bit in the middle that says pious on it, like that. So we're going to add just a little bit more Gryph-Charger Grey in here, make it a bit darker. like that. So you see you've got this kind of transition. Now you can do this as many times as you like until it gets down to a depth that you like. So on the reverse side of the blade, we're going to do the same thing again, but in the opposite direction. So we're going to do that tip there, and then we're going to do this side of the sword. So with that done, as you can see, we've got some really nice kind of opposite shading effect going on. What we're now going to do is we're going to take some Iron Hand Steel. I'm going to use this to brighten up the sections that aren't going to be sort of that little bit darker. So just here, I'm going to paint the Iron Hand Steel over the top like that. Similarly on this side of the blade. Like that. And we're going to do it over the top of the flat section, the bit that says Pious on it. Still sticking with the Iron Hand Steel, what we're going to do is we're going to use this Iron Hand Steel to highlight all the rest of our silver by just picking out the edges. And of course on the blade we want to highlight the edges as well with the Iron Hand Steel. So with that done, what we're then going to do is going to take some Stormhost Silver, and we're going to use this to highlight the blade, just to make it look extra sharp. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is highlight all of the gold using some Canoptek Alloy. Just like this. So with that done, our metallics are now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some Corax White. We're going to use this to pick out each of those rosary beads. Just like this. So with that done, what we're then going to do is take some Screaming Skull. I'm going to use this to highlight the candle wax on the back, just by adding a little bit of this Screaming Skull just here, like this, and then a little bit going down the middle. Like that. And then we're also going to highlight that parchment as well. And next up, what we're going to do is we're going to use some Blood Angels Red, and we're going to use this to layer over the little candle wick just here, like that. I'm going to use it over the top of the little computer screen here. Like that. And then we're also going to drop it into the eye lenses. And so with that done, we're then going to take some Wyldwood, just a small amount. We want to put it in the top left corner of that computer screen on the back. Kind of bring it out to around about halfway. Like that, just add a little bit of shade and shadow into it. You can add a little bit more just to make it nice and dark in that top corner. Like that. What you can also do, if you want to, you can add a small line of it going along the top side of each of the eye lenses. Like that. And like that. So with that done, what we're then going to do is going to take some Lugganath Orange. I'm going to use this to highlight the candle wick, just adding a little bit dot of it there like that. I'm going to use it to highlight the purity seal as well, picking out all the sharp edges in there. We want to add a little highlight to the bottom right corner of the computer screen like that. And then what we also want to do is add a highlight of it going around the bottom of each of the eye lenses. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to work on her face. And the colour we're going to be using is some thinned down Flayed One Flesh. And what we want to do here is just want to pick out the sharpest features on her face. So we've got her nose, got her lips, and we've got her cheekbones and her brow as well, just like that. And with that done, we then want to take a tiny amount of black Templar. We want to use this over her eyeballs. Like that. So with that done, what we then want to do is use a tiny amount of Magos Purple, just add a little bit of colour into her cheeks. So we're just going to load up our brush with a little bit, and we're just going to start painting this over the flesh. Like that. Add some across her brow as well. And lastly, what we want to do is we want to take a tiny amount of Screaming Skull. We want to add a dot either side of the eye. Just like that. So with that done, Aestred Thurga is finished, apart from her banner, obviously. So what we're going to do is we're going to put Aestred to one side, and now we're going to focus on Agathae Dolan, the, well, friend. So the colour we're going to be using first is Skeleton Horde, and we're going to be using this all over her robes. Now, there is a lot here, so what we want to do is just pick a place to start, and I'm going to start right here. We're just going to start painting this Skeleton Horde all over these robes like these. Now these are going to be quite bright, so it doesn't matter too much if the coat is a little bit patchy in places. Apparently my brush now wants to take part in the video. Go over there. Over there. Stop it. So there we go. So like I said, we're just going all over with this skeleton horde, but it is going to be quite a bright coat. So don't worry too much if it is a little bit patchy in places, because we are going to be doing a lot of layering up. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Ushabti Bone. We're going to use this to relayer our cloak. So we've got it thinned down just a little bit more than normal, just so it goes on nice and smooth. And what we want to do is you just want to take some of this on our brush and pick a place to start. And we're going to start right here on the front. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to use this Ushabti Bone to just really brighten back up that cloak, just avoiding any of the places where that skeleton horde has really settled. And so with that done, you should have some robes that look somewhat like this. So what we're going to do now is going to brighten them up even further, and the colour we're going to be using is Screaming Skull. Now we've got this once again just thinned down that little bit more than we normally need to, and we are just going to now do a much more narrow layer of Screaming Skull over the top of where we've just added the Ushabti Bone. Just like this. For example, we'll come down here as well. Coming down here with the Screaming Skull. Just like that. Want it nice and bright now. And with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Pallid Witch Flesh and we're going to use this to highlight all of those folds. So with that done, the robes are now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to take some Apothecary White and we're going to coat this over all of the paper details. So this is going to include this large bit just here. Coming down the middle. Like that. We've got the bundled roll just here. As well. We've got the pages of this book. Just there like that. And we've got a purity seal. We're on this side as well. So with that done, just like with the sister herself, with Aestred Thurga, what we're going to do is we're going to take some Wyldwood and we're going to apply this all over all of the kind of brown details and brown leather that she's got. So we've got the cuffs. like that. We've got the various belts and things like this backpack here. Got the holster on the pistol. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some black Templar. I'm going to use this all over the black details. So this is going to include areas like his boots, or her boots I should say, and that box that she's carrying under her arm. And with that done, I'm then going to take some Fyreslayer Flesh. I'm going to use that to paint in the skin. We've got the face and we've got the hands. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to grab some Flesh Terrors Red. I'm going to use this to paint in a couple of different details. So firstly, we've got the cover of the book just down here. Just like that. And in addition, we've got the various cables and things. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down iron hand steel. We're going to use this to paint in all of our silver details. So this is going to include areas like the staff, like that. We've got the skull facing in the middle. Like so. There's this little bit here, but that frame section, got that bit there as well. But this bit around that's going to be a different silver. In addition, we're also going to paint in areas such as the auto scriber here. We've got the kind of cables. And with that done, we're now going to take some thinned down Retributor Armour and I'm going to paint in the rest of the details. So, areas like the armour around here. Like that. Similarly for the other features on the staff. It's got all these kind of spikes and the rest of the eye, like that. And then we've also got areas such as the frame of this box and the little corner protectors on the book. So with that done, what we now want to do is take some Basilicanum Grey. I'm going to use this to shade all of our silver details. just like this. And with that done, we're then going to take some Fyreslayer Flesh and we're going to use this to shade all of the gold. So with that done, all of our base coats and shades are now applied to Agathae Dolan. So what we're going to do now is we're going to add the highlights. And the first one we're going to use is Grey Seer. We're going to be using this on all of the paper details. Just like this. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is going to once again take some Skrag Brown and use this to highlight all of our Wyldwood details. The recipe for this is exactly the same as on Aestred. So it's Skrag Brown followed by Deathclaw Brown followed by a little bit of Gore-Grunta Fur just to speed things up a little bit. If you'd like to see how I do that, you can just rewind this video. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Cadian Fleshtone. We're going to use this in two different ways. Firstly, what we're going to do is we're going to use this to highlight the sharp points on the red. Just like that. And the other thing we're going to do is going to use this to highlight our first colour on the face. And with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some thinned down Kislev Flesh. I'm going to use this as a little spot highlight on the face and the hands, just picking up the sharpest points. So, for example, the tip and the bridge of the nose, the brow, the cheekbones, the chin, and the wrinkles on the forehead. Just like this. And so with that done, what we then want to do is we want to take some tiny amount of black Templar. We want to use this to colour in the eyeballs like that. But what we also want to do, use a teeny tiny amount of it to just add a little bit to the bottom lip. And so with that done, what we then want to do is take a teeny tiny dot of Screaming Skull. I'm going to apply this on either side of the eyes. Just like this. So with the face now finished, what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all of the gold. The colour we're going to use is once again Canoptek Alloy. Just like this. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Iron Hand Steel. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the silver. Just like this. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Dawnstone. I'm going to use this to highlight the black details. Just like this. So with that done, Agathae Dolan is now finished. There she is, looking awesome. So what we're going to do is we're going to put her to one side. And now we're going to work on that banner. Now the colour we're going to be using first is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Blood Angels Red and Contrast Medium. And this is because we've got very large open panels on which we're going to be working. Now we're going to be doing this for the field on the front and on the back. So we're just going to start here on the back. And we don't want to do these little kind of folds over. We just want to do the main part of the banner. Basically what we're going to do is just very carefully start painting this slightly thinned Blood Angels Red down over the top. Of the banner. So with that 1-to-1 mix of Blood Angels Red and Contrast Medium painted all over the banner, we've also done the robes of the seated skull. What we are going to do now is we're going to once again do a 1-to-1 mix of Blood Angels Red and Contrast Medium. Only we're going to only do this now on the back of the banner. We're not going to do it on the front because that's going to be a different shade. So once again, we're just going to take our 1-to-1 mix and just start painting it all over. Just like this. You really want to enrich that red. And with that done, we should now have a really gorgeous deep red on the back of the banner. Now don't worry about the fact that it's still a bit wet, because what we're going to do now is we're going to shade down the field of the front of the banner. Now the colour we're going to make is roughly 6 parts Contrast Medium to 1 part Wyldwood, and we're going to use this all over that front of the banner, not the back, and we're going to use it everywhere except on the robed skull figure in the middle. So what we're just going to start doing is just start painting it over. Like so. With that done, the flag should be looking somewhat like this, which is pretty cool. So you've got that bright red on the back and on the robes sat here, and you've got that much darker colour on the flag itself. So what we're going to do now is move on. We're going to get all of the base coats done on the banner, and then we're going to do the shading and then do all the highlights at the end. So the next colour we're going to use is Aggaros Dunes, and we're going to be using this for the tassels and the trim all the way around the outside of the banner. And with the Aggaros Dunes applied, we're then going to take some Skeleton Horde. I'm going to use this to paint in the skull here. And up here. And we're also going to use it to paint in the large paper down there. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is going to take some Apothecary White. I'm going to paint this over the top of the big fleur-de-lis right here in the middle. And we're also going to paint it over the top of the wings. And with that Apothecary White applied, what we're then going to do is take some Gryph-Charger Grey. I'm going to paint it over the top of this kind of star that's being held just here. Like that. And we're also going to paint it over the sword blade. And with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to use some thinned down Runelord Brass. I'm going to use this to paint in the kind of floral designs up here. Like that. We're also going to use it to paint in this halo here. And we're also going to use it to paint in the throne upon which this, well, rendering of the Emperor sits, is what I've just realised is what it is. I think supposed to be. just like this. And with that done, what we're now going to do, we're going to take some fins down of Retributor Armour. And we're going to use this to effectively paint in the remaining sort of metallic details. So we've got this necklace here. Like that. We've got the rosary beads as well. Like so. There is the Imperial Eagle. There. And there is the handle of the sword blade. As well as the crossguard. And then we've got the chalice as well. Like that. I've got that cup part as well. And on the banner pole itself, I've got this central piece just here that we want to do, as well as the spike at the bottom. Like so. And with that done, what we now want to do is take some Gryph-Charger Orange. I want to use this to paint in the flames coming off the blade. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is going to paint in all the silver details. Now I should point out that on the back I've painted these as skeleton horde, and I've painted that central piece there with Retributor Armour. Same, if you follow it round, as the cross piece on the front. So we're going to be using some iron hand steel here. We're going to be using this to do pretty much all of the remaining details. So we've got the banner pole itself, there like that, and we've got all of this detail up here, as well as areas like that band going around the skull. And these two nails. And so with all of that iron hand steel applied, what we're now going to do is we're just going to take some Flesh Terror's Red. I'm going to use this to paint in the seals just down here. Got 4 of them. Got 1 there. One there. And we've got the 2 on the other side. So with those seals applied, all of the base coats are now on the banner. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some shades. Now the first one we're going to use is Gore-Grunta Fur. We're going to be using this on our Runelord Brass areas. So starting down here, we just want to add this Gore-Grunta Fur all over. And with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Nazdreg yellow. We're going to use this to shade all of the gold on the flag. Not the ones down here, but all the gold that's on the banner itself. So areas like that. And like that. Just like this. And with that done, we're then going to take some Fyreslayer Flesh. I'm going to use this to shade the gold that's not on the flag itself. So for example, that bit just down there on the banner pole. Like that. And of course, this part as well. And with that done, what we're now going to do is going to use some Basilicanum Grey. I'm going to use this to shade all of the silver. So with all of those shades applied, it is now time to add our highlights to our banner. And then we are on the home stretch. So what we're going to do first is we're going to use some Mephiston Red. We're going to be using this to highlight just this front part of the banner. I'm going to be using it on the darker areas. So basically we've got a couple of really prominent folds here that we want to paint this Mephiston Red as a highlight over the top of. Just like this. We're just picking out those really prominent areas. So with that Mephiston Red applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Evil Sun Scarlet. And we're now going to do this as a highlight over those Mephiston Red areas, but also as a highlight on the brighter red. So, for example, here on these Mephiston Red areas, what we want to do is just add a little bit of this Evil Sun Scarlet going down the middle. Of each of those highlights, like that. And with the front all highlighted with the Evil Sun Scarlet, and because my phone ran out of storage, what we're going to do is just continue with the Evil Sun Scarlet here on the back. And we're just painting in these large open folds. Just like this. Down the sides, we don't need to do the whole area. You can just do the edge. Like that. So we still get that lovely Blood Angels red there that we've already painted in. And over here, what we're going to do is just paint in the large fold just there. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to use some thinned down Fire Dragon Bright. This is going to be our final red highlight. And basically what we want to do is on our brighter red, so the back of the banner, I'm going to draw a really narrow, thin line going right down the middle. Of each of these sections, the folds and the raised areas where we've placed that Evil Sun Scarlet effectively. On our darker red, we just want to add this as a teeny little spot highlight. To the sharpest points. So around here, here, there, there, and there, like that. And then also what we want to do is on the red robes here, so you want to add a highlight. Just picking out all of the edges like that. Similarly on the back, what we want to do, we want to use the Fire Dragon Bright. Draw once again, just a very narrow line going down the middle of our Evil Sun Scarlet areas. So, for example, here on this large one, just want to draw this starting around about the middle. And so with that red all done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Corax White. I'm going to use this in two slightly different ways. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to use this Corax White to basically relayer the wings, because we want those to be nice and bright. So we just want to very carefully paint this Corax White all over the wings like that. However, in the instance of the other white details, such as that fleur-de-lis, what we want to do is we want to add a little edge highlight. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Screaming Skull. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the parchment, the kind of border of the banner, just by picking out the edges. As well as areas such as the skull up here. And the skull and the fingers. On the banner itself. And so with that done on both sides, what we're now going to do is going to use some Lugganath Orange. We're going to use this to highlight the flames. Like that, as well as our purity seals on the back here. And with that done, what we're then going to do is take some Canoptek Alloy. I'm going to use this to highlight the metallic areas on the banner itself. Like that. As well as the gold areas on the banner pole. And so with that done, all that remains is to highlight the silver. And the colour we're going to be using for that is Iron Hand Steel. So with that done, all that's left to do is to work on their bases, and well, what we're going to do is we're going to just focus on those rocks very quickly and very simply. We're going to use some Skeleton Horde. I'm going to paint this all over these areas. And so with that done, what we're then going to do is going to take some Astro Granite debris. I'm going to add this to the negative space sections on the bases. And with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to dry brush the entire of the base with some Tyrant Skull.
And there we have it. Aestred Thurga, the Reliquant at Arms, is now finished, and she looks absolutely incredible. It is amazing that the Sisters of Battle have ended up with 4 centerpiece models between Morven, Val, the Triumph of St. Catherine, St. Celestine and Aestred Thurga, and the range is just, as a whole, fantastic. And this was a lot of fun to do. It's always fun to kind of flex your creative chops just a little bit, and the technical chops just to get in and around all those details. A lot of fun. Heartily recommend that you pick one up for your sisters' armies.
If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you can now become a YouTube channel member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, just like these absolute bosses have done. And if you just want to shoot me a little thanks, just because you really love this video, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.